Hello class. Today we are going to work on lesson N2e and N2f, which will cover multiplying and dividing rational numbers. Remember, rational numbers are numbers that can be written as a over b, so we will also see fractions today as well. Let's get started. Before we jump into solving problems, let's review some rules for multiplication. These may seem like a lot of rules at first, but you should already be familiar with most of them. The first rule that we have listed is that multiplication can be written several different ways. We can use an X, a dot, or a set of parentheses to show multiplication. We will actually see one more way in Rule 4. The second rule is that the order of multiplication doesn't matter. In other words, 3 times -2 is the same as -2 times 3. The third rule tells us that if there is an odd number of negatives, the final answer will be negative. If there's an even number of negatives, the final answer will be positive. The fourth rule states that multiplication can occur between numbers and variables. So here we get a -4x. This indicates -4 times x. Multiplication is unique in that it is the only operation that does not need to be written directly. Even though there's nothing written between the -4 and x, we understand that it is still multiplying. Rule 5 states that multiplying any number times 0 will give you 0. Rule 6 states that if you multiply a number times -1, you will end up with the opposite sign. Here we have +4 times a -1, which gives us -4. What started out as a positive became a negative, the opposite sign. The next couple of rules may be new, so let's make sure we are focused here. Rule 7 states that if we multiply a number by its reciprocal, which is the flip of a fraction, the answer will be 1, always. So in this example, 5 times 1/5 will be 1. 9 over 10 times 10 over 9 would also be 1. A diamond over a heart times a heart over a diamond would be 1. Rule 8 also introduces a possibly new concept, which is exponents. Repeated multiplication can be written as an exponent. In other words, 8 times 8 times 8 times 8 times 8 is the same as 8 to the 5th power. You can use these rules here to help you as you are working independently. The first problem here asks us to draw two representations for the product of 5 times 3. We can draw a simple box array with 5 rows and 3 columns, as I've shown here. You can also represent this with pictures, with 5 rows and 3 columns of pictures like bunnies. In the next section, we will be simplifying expressions that involve variables. Part A, a negative times a negative is a positive. Unlike addition and subtraction with multiplication, these signs do not need to be right next to each other. Therefore, a -1 times a -2 is a positive 2. And so we write 2 times x. So we can show that this 2 is still being multiplied times x. In part B, a negative times a negative is a positive as well, and a number times its reciprocal is 1. Therefore, from the numbers in part B, we get positive 1 times y, or just y. In part C, the repeated multiplication of b can be written as b to the 4th power. Therefore, we get 5b to the 4th power. Try the rest of the question 3 and all of question 4 on your own at the end of this video. Multiplying fractions are much simpler than adding or subtracting because you don't need to find a common denominator. In part A here, we get 2 times 3 in the numerator, which gives us 6, and 5 times 4 in the denominator, which gives us 20. We're simply multiplying straight across the fraction. Simplifying 6 over 20, we get 3 over 10 by dividing 2 in the numerator and the denominator. And that's it. Multiply straight across and simplify. Much easier. In part B, we can see that there is a common 3 in both fractions. Since one of the 3's is in the numerator and the other one is in the denominator, this is very helpful. We can actually simplify here at the beginning before multiplying across. When doing so, we can cancel out the 3's in the numerators and in the denominator. And this will leave us with just our 1 over 7. Of course, we could still multiply across, as I did here, and then divide by 3 on both the top and the bottom, and we will still get 1 over 7. It's important to note, in order to use this shortcut of canceling out the 3's, a few things must happen. We must only have multiplication between the two fractions, and one of the common numbers must be on the top and one must be on the bottom, just like we had here. Try the rest of question number 6 at the end of this video. Now let's review some rules for division. Again, these may seem like a lot of rules at first, but you should already be familiar with most of these rules. The first rule gives us a few ways to write division. You can use the division symbol and also the fraction bar to represent division. All of these would indicate 8 divided by 2. Unlike multiplication, order matters with division. So Rule 2 states that 12 divided by 4 is not the same as 4 divided by 12. Order matters. Rule 3 is the same as multiplication, since an even number of negatives make a positive and an odd number will give you a negative. Rule 4 says 0 can be in the numerator or on top, but cannot be in the denominator. In other words, you can have 0 divided by a number, but you can't divide anything by 0. Rule 5 says that dividing by 1 doesn't change the value of the number. Here we have 46 divided by 1 is still 46, and 52 divided by 1 is still 52. By Rule 6, dividing by a number is the same as multiplying it by its reciprocal. Remember, the reciprocal is the flip of the fraction, and it will always be the second fraction that is flipped. We'll go through a few more examples here in a little bit. You can use these rules here to help you as you are working independently. In this first set of problems, we are asked to divide each whole number into its correct number of sections and shade the correct portion to represent the fraction. In the first one, you can see that the whole box is divided up into 4 equal parts. This is because the 3 is being divided by 4 in the fraction. I would shade 3 out of these 4 parts to represent the fraction 3/4. Try the rest of question 1 at the end of this video. In this next section, we are asked to review using long division. In part A, the first number, 78, will go on the inside of my division. And we ask first, how many times does 6 go into 7? We get 1 time. Then we take our 1 times 6 gives us our 6, and we subtract. 7 minus 6 gives us 1. Drop down the 8, start again. How many times does 6 go into 18? We get 3. 3 times 6, again, is 18. Since 18 minus 18 is 0, there is no remainder in this problem. Try the rest of question 2 at the end of this video. Question 3 is asking us to find the reciprocal of each of these numbers. In part A, we can find the reciprocal of 4 by first putting 4 over 1. And then we will flip this fraction. In this case, we get 1/4. Try the rest of question 3 at the end of this video. Question 4 is asking us to rewrite these problems as multiplication problems. You don't have to solve for question number 4. So in the first part, we are asked to rewrite 35 divided by 3. To rewrite, we would need to turn the second number into a fraction by putting it over 1. So here, 3 over 1. Then we are going to use the division rule, number 6, which states that dividing by a number is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So we skip the 35, change division to multiplication, and flip the 3 over 1 to 1 over 3. I remember this by keep, change, flip. We keep the first number, change division to multiplication, and flip the fraction. Keep, change, flip. Try the rest of problem 4 at the end of this video. For question 5, we are going to start the same as problem 4 with keep, change, flip, but this time we are going to solve. Looking at the first question, let's rewrite this in one line as 2 divided by 2 over 9, using this fraction bar as my division. Remember in Rule 1, that was one of the ways that we represent division is by our fraction. So 2 divided by 2/9. Then we can keep the 2, change the division to multiplication, and flip the fraction from 2 over 9 to 9 over 2. Here, when we solve, we can turn 2 over 1 into a fraction so that we can multiply straight across and then simplify. Try the rest of question 5 at the end of this video. At this time, you should complete the rest of the notes in class today. Your homework will be N2C. Have a great afternoon, guys.